President Trump yesterday signed an executive order to give more oversight to the federal government workforce to the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE. In particular, DOGE will be working to reform the federal workforce to maximize efficiency and productivity, two things it has notoriously been known for not doing. Meanwhile, Democrats continue to rail against the new agency and its leader, Elon Musk, more upset over what he's doing than what he and his team are finding. More proof that Democrats are out of touch with not only the will of the American people, but also the serious crisis that is facing our nation in terms of debt. Joining me now to discuss this is Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Finance Committee and the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. Senator Lankford, welcome back to the program.
Always good to visit with you, Tony, always.
And speaking of government waste, you have just released your own tracking down. You predate Elon Musk. You've been doing this for quite some time. Took it over from one of the previous senators from Oklahoma looking at government waste. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I put up what I call the Federal Fumble Book. This is our 8th edition of the Federal Fumble Book, and I'm glad to have Elon Musk actually joining the party on this. There have been several of us asking a simple question: why doesn't every single office in Congress actually assign their staff to go pursue waste and go expose it and then go find ways to be able to turn it around? We've been able to turn off a lot of waste over the past several years just by exposing it, and it causes it to be able to come down as people get embarrassed of it. We're doing that again to be able to say, here are some major problems with this particular Fumble Book, and we're going to just call it out. And this time we've got reinforcements with DOGE to surround it and say, let's actually get this implemented.
Of your latest report, what are some of the most egregious findings?
Oh, it's always painful to be able to go through. We found $100 billion in Medicare and Medicaid that's called improper payments, that they literally don't know if they were sent to the right spot on that. The same with the SNAP payments, $10 billion in SNAP payments. People don't have an argument on getting assistance, people that need assistance, but people have a big problem with $10 billion going out the door. $2.5 million were sent to Vietnam to do an electric vehicle battery sign-up location there in Vietnam. I don't know why we're paying for that in Vietnam. We also have called out multiple different areas. Like in China, we sent $1 billion in subsidies to a company for solar panel production. If we're going to do solar panel production, we should probably be doing that here in the United States, not actually subsidizing a Chinese company for that. So there's a lot of areas that we've identified. USAID sending money to the Taliban, to groups connected to Hamas. We just want to make sure that we call it out and we get it to stop.
Hey, when you get into an annual budget in the trillions of dollars, people play with this money as if it were monopoly. And,
right.
and they toss it around, and before you know it, it adds up. I mean, it adds up to hundreds of billions of dollars, and I think even into the trillions of government waste.
It is. And for folks in Oklahoma, my state on it, if they're paying $2,000 in taxes this year to their federal government, they expect that to go to roads and education and national defense. They're not expecting that to go to a Chinese solar company to be able to subsidize them. They don't want their dollars going there. They work hard to be able to earn that money. They just don't want to waste it. Most every American and most every Oklahoman I talk to, they don't mind paying taxes as long as it's not wasted. Now it's being wasted in multiple areas, and they want it to stop.
Senator Lankford, as I see DOGE and coming in, cutting spending, and the president coming in and putting a hiring freeze on and eliminating, a lot of like USAID and some of these agencies that we've all had issues with how they've prioritized their spending. In some ways, this is kind of pushing the government towards zero-based budgeting, so that instead of just layering money on top of money every year, as this clean out takes place, it's going to force them to justify any additional money in the future.
It will. And what was interesting is people asked me at the very beginning, why is Elon Musk actually doing this? Why is it? Well, he's run a lot of successful companies and tried to make them lean and efficient, but he also has the communication abilities to be able to push stories out. And quite frankly, a lot of this just goes away when people see the light of day. When it's a government and an agency saying, well, I got this and they got this, and so we just made a deal on it, that may work behind the scenes, but when it sees daylight, that's when people say, yep, that should have never been there in the first place.
That's a really, really good point. I mean, what he brings to the table is his own megaphone when it comes about broadcasting what he is finding. Because, you've done yeoman's work of putting out each year for 8 years this report. But, you get some conservative medias that'll pick it up. I mean, you're on our program talking about it each year. But you don't have the megaphone of Elon Musk.
I don't have a billion Twitter followers like he has on it. Excuse me, a billion X followers that he has on it. So yeah, he's a slightly louder megaphone on it to be able to get that out. But that's important to be able to put it out because he not only puts out an area where it's exposed about transgender comic books in Peru that we paid for. He can put that out there and to be able to say, this has got to stop. But it actually starts a conversation to say what else is there. That's helpful both in state governments, because a lot of states are now starting their own DOGE efforts, and also across federal agencies.
Let me see if I can help you. What's your X handle so I can get you a few more here today? So.
At Senator Lankford, pretty straightforward.
All right, folks, follow Senator Lankford on X so you can get a few more and be up there kind of competing with Elon Musk. You also got your finger on the international pulse. You and I have traveled to Israel before, back when you were in the House. Let's talk, if you will, for just a moment about the situation there with it. It appears the ceasefire may fall completely apart unless these hostages are released by Saturday.
It may on that. And I would tell you, this is when Egypt and the Qataris need to engage with Hamas and any leverage and relationships they've got to say, if we want this chaos to stop and the bloodshed to stop, they need to release the hostages. That's the number one issue among Israel right now, is the release of those hostages. And Hamas continues to hold them, and not just hold them, gloat that they're holding them. And as we've seen from the last release of the hostages just a few days ago, they left looking like Holocaust survivors, just gaunt and frail from the way that they have been treated while they have been in Gaza. So it is exceptionally important to be able to get an end to this war, but that ends when those hostages are actually released.
This really is Hamas's last opportunity.
It is, actually, and Israel's been very, very clear on this, and quite frankly, President Trump's made it very, very clear. Hamas needs to stop playing around with human life on this and actually release these hostages. Then the rest of the Arab community can wrap around them and say, what are we going to do to be able to rebuild Gaza and bring some stability? But for those leaders like Sinwar that is still hiding out there in Gaza, they're using children in front of them to be able to protect their life, the loss of life of children on that, because they don't care about human life, whether it's a hostage or a Palestinian child. The rest of the Arab community and the rest of the free world, they do care about human life, and they want to see an end to this violence.
Senator Lankford, as we look back on what happened on October the 7th and since then with this devastating war that has taken place, and our hearts are broken, not just for the 1,200 Israelis that were attacked on that day, but also the Palestinians that have suffered tremendously through this. I mean, it was unnecessary. This was on the shoulders of Hamas. But does this not put to rest, or should it not put to rest, this idea that there can be a divided Israel, a two-state solution there?
Yeah, I would tell you, everyone wants to see some sort of option here at the end of the day, but you tell me who the Israeli leaders are going to sit down with. The inept leadership that's currently leading the Palestinian Authority, or they sit down with leaders of Hezbollah or of Hamas to be able to try to negotiate this. There are no leaders that are there to even sit down with and to have a negotiation that want actual peace with Jews. They're chanting from the river to the sea, meaning the death of all Jews and the expulsion of all Jews out of Israel. So when you're negotiating with that group, it's literally trying to say, we're going to live at peace, but we're not going to let you attack us and kill us. That's the only option that you have at that point.
Well, we are praying for those hostages to be released by this Saturday, and to see a managed peace return to the Middle East there in Israel. Senator James Lankford, always great to see you. Congratulations on your Fumbles being released, your latest report on the government funding, and hopefully Elon Musk is going to make a great team member for you as you continue your work to make government efficient.
Yep, we need to waste less, save more. That's a pretty simple thing that I think everybody should say is a nonpartisan thing to do. Let's solve it.
Yeah, you just need to get some hats that say that. All right.
Try to work on that acronym.
All right. Yeah, it's a big one. All right. Senator Lankford, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.